is not at an end as yet. Webinar participants, there are questions, and we will be taking some of the questions. I think some of the panelists have marked some of the questions. Neha, you had marked a few questions. Maybe you'd like to start by answering them.
I sort of combined all of that in my long
Oh,
answer. So
okay.
some of them are about, but one quick question I want to sort of revisit if I have the time is that the question about how modernity and individualism and family are impacted, or Indic feminism sort of addresses that, or the impact Indic feminism, and that's, I think it's a very very crucial point, but I don't they would probably take another entire seminar to answer them. But what I'll basically, summarize this as saying is that a lot of these isms, right, especially all of the ones that emerged post Enlightenment liberalism, have been, as we briefly touched upon, have been focused on addressing the problems, or creating the problems of this, communist and capitalist paradigm, and we're stuck in this binary. Labor and work separation happened there. Now what is, arts then, are not jobs that are very well paid, and so now there's that separation. But previously, if we have in the previous session, like the sort of paradigm that Sumita ji was mentioning, these were patronages, right? The all of these things, it wasn't a matter of what you can sell that got you the money, right? Art was done for art's sake, and it was patronized by the society at large. Now we see a reversal in the name of patreon.com. So which is essentially the same thing, right? So we've this sort of separation that has happened through, and unfortunately, even though it wasn't Indic in the first place, it is still happening to Indics. We are living in Western countries. If we're not living in Western countries, even India is now a West, this it's a global economy. And so therefore, many of those things have gotten in. That does not necessarily mean that we cannot find the sweet spot, right? Individualism, modernity is here to stay, but there, as long as we make informed choices, as long as we understand where is that conflict between dharma and modernity, and there is a conflict, right? Oftentimes you see, truisms, like, liberalism, Hinduism is very liberal, Hinduism is very modern. Well, if you compare this to, like, extremely regressive things, then of course it is modern and liberal. But you have to understand these are fully established philosophies, and there are key areas where we digress. And if you do not understand and appreciate that, and we as a society have no appreciation of this at all, so until we learn to understand and appreciate that, we will not be able to make informed choices for ourselves, and instead we will continue into the cycle of, looking down upon the other people, looking down upon their choices and deciding that those are regressive choices and so on. So that the diversion is necessary. How does it affect feminism? Well, it is essentially, it is the entire exercise, right? This finding that sweet spot, what changes the lived experiences of women, how can we improve them for the better while taking inspiration from our ancient heritage, is exactly the purpose of this movement that is now, coming up. And this is, again, as I mentioned previously, this is not just a problem that Hindus are trying to solve. We have a growing body of indigenous feminists that are coming from other pantheistic, polytheistic cultures that have survived. They may be smaller than in numbers than Hinduism, but there is definitely a growing movement. There is a budding movement of decolonizing yourselves, and the neoliberals and the neoconservatives are actually both getting, hammered through that movement. So a lot of those changes are happening, and we must keep an eye on them, but these should be informed, and these should not be taken as, the blue pill or the red pill or whatever those pills are, and just, swallowed whole. They must be understood, critiqued, and dealt with in a critical fashion.
Okay. So there are some of the questions which some of the panelists have marked as the ones they want to answer. Aditi, you wanted to answer a couple of questions about would dharmic feminism would be a better term than Indic feminism, and about the next steps that we are to take. So Aditi, the floor is yours.
Sure, yeah, there are a few of them. There was also one on discrimination against LGBTQIA, especially in our tradition when we've always had respect for the concept of the third gender and all of that. So I wanted to speak to that as well. I think one of the unique aspects of dharma is that it is so so diverse, by which I mean that there's different dharmas for, there's not one dharma for everyone. So it's always been understanding you have different personality types, uh, different places and times and circumstance, and each individual has their own swadharma. So there's never this requirement to force someone into a path that is not suitable for them. And so in that framework, then there is also a place in dharma for everyone. And I think what has happened is we've become so influenced by the British and this Victorian type of mentality. And that's what you're seeing versus the great freedom and not just tolerance, but acceptance that's there in our original traditions. So I think that's yet another reason why we have to, first of all, decolonize our minds and go back to the origins of our tradition. And I think that'll give also like a very different framework and model for eradicating these prejudices. So that was one point. There was another question on like next steps on what we can do. And I think one reason why I think this panel has been so great is, for us, this isn't just academic or theoretical. It's something that we live in our experiences. It's visceral to us, and it's a lived experience. And we have a personal relationship with the concept of Shakti, or the sacred feminine, or what this means. And so I think it's important, and we've spoken about this, and Deepaji had also mentioned it, that the importance of sadhana and rooting ourselves in our traditions, like Neha was also talking about Ma Durga. And it's so important for us, first of all, to connect to that within our own lives. And I think a part of practical feminism means that within our own spheres of influence, as Suhag was talking about our day-to-day life, that we do what is right, that we reach out to other people, that we have the sense of trying to make a better place for those who are around us and who are in our circles. And what happens is, the more sadhana that you do, then the ambit of your influence increases, and people will naturally feel inspired by that, or it happens in very subtle ways, and we do not pay enough attention to that. So I think the more we root ourselves in our traditions and develop that tapobala and that atmanirbhar, that'll happen kind of naturally. And then we have to continue to decolonize ourselves and explore our ancient frameworks. And then I think it's also very important to look forward. So I think sometimes it's good to understand what's in our tradition, but we're not going to go back to something that was there thousands of years ago. So I think, like we were discussing Grihasti in the context of COVID. The flip side is, because of COVID, a lot of women, at least in the US, are finding themselves under a lot of pressure, where they cannot both be working from home and also, homeschooling their kids and taking care of the house. It's just too much. So what kind of model can we offer in that context? And there's so many critical questions like that we need to face. And I just don't want to keep getting lost in the past, which is why I also appreciate the work that Neha is doing on this. So there's a lot of room where we have practical wisdom to offer. And I think we have to keep exploring those points. Suhag, I think, has a point.
Yes, Suhag, please go ahead.
I wanted to just kind of riff off of what Aditi just said, and also one of the comments that there was appreciation expressed that we brought up the role of men. And there's also a question of, how do we raise our girls? I think it's equally important, how do we raise our boys, especially in the United States? And this is personal for me. I have 2 boys, and from the youngest levels of being in elementary school, where most of the teachers are women, and some of the predominant narratives that are allowed, and how you are empowered to speak on where things might not feel comfortable. I think there's opportunity for us there too, and for us not to forget that responsibility. Because look, the fact of the matter is that a lot of women and girls aren't able to reach their fullest potential. But at least in the United States, the efforts that have been made to reverse that, or to at least level the playing field, is getting in some sectors to a point where it's disadvantaging. And the whole I think, take-home message of Dharmic, Indic, Hindu feminism is that of balance. And so I think that there's opportunity there as well, and we shouldn't forget our boys. And all of these stories, whatever we tell, whether it's the struggles of our grandparents, whether it's Draupadi and Krishna and that relationship, whatever it is, there's something to be learned for all of us, regardless of whether we're a boy, a girl, neither, both, whatever. But I think that it's important for us to keep that in mind as well.
Yes, that's an excellent point.
Sorry, I just had a quick sorry, I forgot to mention one thing about the Dharmic feminism versus Indic. I think Indic is, in a way, they cover the same things. I do have a preference for Dharmic because I think Indic may seem like it's part of a geography or an ethnicity, whereas Dharmic is more universal, and Dharma is the framework from where all of these models are coming. So I do have a slight preference for that
And I
term.
hope we will have many discussions on this. We're going to grab the narrative and run with it, remember? So we're going to have a lot of discussion on this.
I also
Neha,
have a slight preference. It's called Shaktitva.
okay, so we have 3 candidates already. Let the games begin. Preeti, there was one question which maybe you could answer. Somebody has asked, is there any statement similar to, if you are not communist or leftist in the 20s, you have no heart? If you are still communist, leftist in the 30s and later, you have no brain. Is there something similar to this for feminists? I think that would be a good question for you to answer, and to finish a thought which I think you left unexpressed.
Yeah, I was actually going to answer the other question about the Shiva Shakti too. So
Please
maybe
go
I'll
ahead,
come to the
answer that
Shiva
one too.
Yeah, the Shiva Shakti, you look, as I've said before, true yoga is the ultimate, union of the Shiva and Shakti within us. So that's something that's so central to Sanatan Dharma and Shakti, right? So that's a wonderful thing that the world can learn from us. And Shiva cannot exist without Shakti. Shakti can probably do quite well on her own, but she chooses to have that amazing Shiva energy. I always say Shiva is the hardware, but Shakti is the energy that energizes and starts the whole thing on and makes it operational. So you really need the two. So we got to find that balance within. The communism, this is it's really a disease that has plagued the world for 100 years. And I think at some point we need to come out of it. And I thought maybe the political spectrum is one way to get rid of that way of thinking, because when we start thinking more nationalistic or not so much globalization, but really about national security and kind of the right way of thinking or the more conservative way of thinking, then you can let go of that communist/socialist points of view. So I'm not thinking of any quote that comes to me. I'm sure there's so many good ones, but I think it's that never works. Like taking from one and redistributing it, that's a lopsided effort that never ends well. And there's much that's also not fair either. And there's much resentment to be had. And people talk about socialism like it's a great thing, but there's never been in history a socialist country that has actually succeeded. They've all failed. And I don't, God, hope this country doesn't go down that track. And thankfully, India came out of that, because the whole Marxism, communism is actually intertwined. The political system and then the ideology and the concepts are all one, right? Regardless of what the governance is of the day. I think my thought was, my letter to the Indian woman, my plea to the Indian woman is, don't ape the West. I think you have enough in your own tradition, and go back to it. Go back to tradition. The answers are there. Find the answers for yourself and find something that works for you. While the rest of the world will eventually come to us as well and find those answers, you don't want a situation where we've left it behind and we're trying to find something that it's like a mirage. It doesn't work. It's not working that well in the West. So, don't abandon what you have, because it's the only one that has stood the test of time. So that's my plea to the Indian woman.
So somebody has asked, Shahana, that changing education, as you mentioned, is the need of the hour. So she is asking, that's Aparna Dasaka. She's asking, is it the need of the hour to introduce household chores into academics so that boys and girls learn equally? So we change the education system like that.
No, I mean, this for household chores, I mean, this is something that we all need to talk about so that it's something that we eventually should not need to talk about. It should be such a given that everybody knows, right? I see in the younger generation, the college going generation, that this is not even an issue, right? Here in America, at least, I mean, all the kids, they know that they are on their own. They know how to, they need to know how to cook. They need to clean. So I feel that this should happen automatically if more and more people just initially talk about it. So it's not something that has to come through textbooks. But what I want to say is that today, whatever all of us have spoken today, we have to find a way for all this to get into books, the textbooks, whatever we spoke today. Otherwise, we are just talking, and it's a webinar. But how are you going to get all this knowledge into the textbooks that the young girls and boys are going to read? That's something we need to ponder on.
Okay.
I'll quickly talk about the household chores into academic stuff. So, actually, the funny thing is that again, my mom comes to the rescue. We were chatting about this, and one thing she sort of remarked is that, with modernity, especially Indian society seems to be stuck in the middle, right? We don't want to let go of the sort of like the traditional understanding of how things work, but we at the same time we don't want to miss the bus on modernity and progress, or whatever the jazzy word is, which makes it sound nicer. So we're stuck in the middle, right? So we want to live in an urban environment and make a lot of money, but at the same time we want the both the parents to work, but at the same time we don't want to share the household chores because it is a woman's job and whatever. So this understanding has completely became warped over time because of two waves of colonization, and plus, like, even the flawed education system. But as to Sahanaji's point, in fact, the funny thing is, in people in America, either none of them know how to cook, or all of them, or like, it's not a gender thing, right? It's not that women know how to cook and men don't know how to cook. I've
Exactly.
seen
Yeah.
examples which are where both are equally bad, or both are equal, or can be
No,
very,
but they
very.
know that it's a work that we all have to get done, right? That's the way they deal with it, the college going kids, right?
And it's not even the college going, well, like, in general, as a young professional living in America, you don't have the luxury of having so many servants. So
Yeah.
you
So
learn all the things the hard way,
That's an important point.
especially the Indian kids like me who come here and are thrown as like a baby out of the bath water, and my mother is laughing at anyone.
but
That
there's also a lot of messaging in advertisements nowadays, which shows the men doing work, right? Like the washing machine and all that stuff. They show men doing the work. I mean, so it has to work at various levels.
So
So just
maybe
like,
my idea of a new refashioned Grihasti will really come into being. Somebody has asked me a question about that. They are asking, will this new refashioned Grihasti be able to take into account issues of modernism and legal issues? So I would like to answer that, in fact, the state today is trying to take everything away from the family. All decision making, all laws, everything, it is being shifted out of family and community to the state, and state mandated legal the state mandated legal framework. I am not in favor of that. So many issues of modernism, many issues of law, of actions, of behavior, of interpersonal relations have to be resolved within the family and community. Everything cannot be outsourced to the state. This is a very communistic, very modernistic, and very kind of totalistic approach, that the state is the one which should answer everything. So I feel that through a process of negotiation within the families and within communities, we can take on board all issues of modernism. We've talked about grihasti, we've talked about financial dependence, etc. Deepa, you were shaking your head very. Did you want to say something?
Um, yes, but I also want to chime in on the previous discussion,
Please, please go
Sahana
ahead.
and Neha.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, I understand that question, and I know where it comes from, this whole thing about household chores, being, 99% on the head of women. I understand that context, but I also believe it does not take into account fundamental, again, dharma. It's not related to female or feminine, but the fact that it's not a chore. I mean, the way you position it is also coming out wrong, right? It is a duty to the family. It's a karma that you do as part of your life. And it's, in fact, I'm not advocating that all of us become like great saints and like, in our 20s. That's not going to happen. But that's the ideal. The ideal is that I want a smooth functioning family where we have a structure where everybody can, the basic things get done, food gets on the table, house is reasonably clean, everything, so that all of us can pursue our particular thing, right? And in that context, if you make everything sound like a chore, not going to happen. Like today, my husband has cooked, right? Because I've been sitting here. He's an awful cook and it's not going to happen often. But the point is, the point is not about who does what and all that, but it's really how do we have a smooth functioning family, which allows each of us to do the right thing. And if that means
Deepa, I think we are now running out of time. There was a question on sati. So just a short answer. Please read Meenakshi Jain's book on sati and see how it is a missionary creation, a kind of shortcut acid attack across the face of Hinduism. And then we can get back on it perhaps another time. Somebody has asked about, Ram has asked about kind of an FAQ packet to give out to people to teach them about Indic feminism. I think that's a great idea. Perhaps as a follow-up of this seminar, we can actually all of us get together and create this FAQ packet. So I think many of the questions that came in have been answered in the process of the talks and in the process of the panel discussion. Otherwise, we will take them up later. People who want to contact us can contact us on social media. A lot of people are asking how they can get in touch with all of us. Please contact us. We all have a social media presence and we are all very, very much public figures. So we come to the end of this wonderful 2, almost 3 hours, and I cannot thank Indic Academy, Aftans, Ram and Nishant and Hari Kiranji enough, but there shall be a proper vote of thanks.
Yes, I wouldn't take too much of the time. I just wanted to thank everybody to be here, but the official vote of thanks will be by Ram. So Ram, please come on and do it, please.
Hey guys, yes, yeah. It was a wonderful conversation. I don't know, I can't thank enough everybody. Saying thank you is not just good manners, it's also good spirituality. In that regard, I think on behalf of Indic Academy, I would like to extend a warm gratitude to all the panelists for agreeing to be part of the program and sharing each of your perspectives on Indic feminism. To our moderator for structuring and conducting the program, connecting all the pieces and weaving it very nicely for an educational experience. To Meera, Nishant's daughter, for invoking the prayer. And to our logistics team in India for all the support on the promotional.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And promotional activities and social media. They play a very important role in raising awareness of Indic Academy and its activities. Thank my colleagues, Nishant and Avatans, for supporting this program throughout. Last but not the least, I want to thank the audiences for tuning in. I'm sure you come from many time zones and geographies. We appreciate that, and you motivate us to do more. We have been planning this event since the beginning of the year. This was supposed to be an in-person event. It turned out to be an online event. I think it turned out very well though. Reading excellent set of questions that came in, we hope to have provoked some thoughts and planted some ideas for our participants to carry this forward in your own way. Indic Academy is there to help. Shri Harikaran Mudlamani is a pillar of support for all of us. Thanks all. Thanks for listening in. Have a wonderful day wherever you are. This is Ram signing off.
And like Neha says, we bow in front of, we bow to Shakti. So we bow to all of you. Thank you very much. We'll end now.
Thank you to
Very
everyone.
enlightening. Thank you very much.
Absolutely wonderful panel. It was great moderating this discussion. Thank you and namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you.